Commander, is this some kind of game? Are you calling in a report just so you can cut us off again?
You know it.
That never gets old, does
The
it?
Citadel Council is the governing body of the Citadel. Convening in the impressive Citadel Tower, the Council is the ultimate authority in Citadel space, passing judgment for violations of Council law, settling disputes between governments, and maintaining law and order, often through the use of its own covert intelligence service, the Spectres.
The Council is an executive committee composed of one representative from each of the member species. Though they have no official power over the independent governments of other species, the Council's decisions carry great weight throughout the galaxy. No single Council race is strong enough to defy the others, and all have a vested interest in compromise and cooperation.
Each of the Council species has general characteristics associated with the various aspects of the governing of the galaxy. The Asari are typically seen as the diplomats and mediators, the Solarians gather intelligence and information, the Turians provide the bulk of the military and peacekeeping forces.
Any species granted an embassy on the Citadel is considered an associate member, bound by the accords of the Citadel Conventions. Associate members may bring issues to the attention of the Council, but they have no impact on their final decision.
So in terms of the formation of the Council, the Citadel Council was founded in 500 BCE by the Asari and Solarians, the first two races to independently discover the Citadel. Believed to be a triumph of the lost Prothean civilization, at the hub of the mass relay network, it was the Asari who suggested forming a governing body aboard the space station in partnership with the newcomer Solarians. The founding of the Council marks the beginning of the Galactic Standard GS calendar, the year 0 GS. Over the next 500 years, the Council rapidly expanded outward from the Citadel, encountering several new races and incorporating them into the growing galactic community. The Volus were the earliest known race that the Council made first contact with. In 200 BCE, the Council granted the Volus an embassy at the Citadel in recognition of their contributions to the Citadel space, including the Unified Banking Act, which established the credit as the standard currency. Along with the Volus, the Batarians, Elcor, Hanar, and Quarians were also welcomed to the Fog during this time.
So in terms of the Rachni Wars, the times of the peaceful first contact ended abruptly for the Council, with the accidental discovery of the Rachni around 1 CE. The hive-minded, insect-like Rachni reacted with extreme hostility and initiated a large-scale war with the races of Citadel space. Negotiation with the Rachni Queens were impossible. The Queens could not be contacted in their underground nests on the Rachni worlds. A turning point in the war came when the Solarians made first contact with the Krogan in 80 CE, who had been living in the post-apocalyptic ruins of their homeworld Tuchanka for nearly 2,000 years. The Krogan were uplifted and manipulated into serving as soldiers for the Council. The resilient Krogan succeeded where other Citadel races could not. Able to survive on the harsh Rachni worlds, the Krogan stormed Rachni nests and exterminated Queens one by one. By 300 CE, the Rachni were declared extinct. As a reward for their service, the Krogan were given a new, pristine homeworld. A lasting result of the Rachni Wars was the Council's establishment of new laws which prohibited the activation of uncharted mass relays.
So, into the Krogan rebellions and the Turians arriving on the galactic scene. Some 400 years after the end of the Rachni Wars, the Council once again found itself embroiled in a galaxy-wide conflict. The Krogan, having exploded in numbers and encroaching on the territories of the other races, were asked by the Council to withdraw from the Asari colony of Lucia. Outraged, the Krogan refused. The Council ordered the recently formed Special Tactics and Reconnaissance Division to make a preemptive strike against Krogan infrastructures, and this began the Krogan rebellions.
This conflict persisted for a century, ending only after the Council made first contact with the Turians, who agreed the Krogan were a threat and declared war against them. The Turians inflicted the lethal blow by using the Solarian-developed genophage. Without the ability to quickly replenish their forces, the Krogan dwindled. Following the rebellions, the Citadel Conventions were drawn up. Since 900 CE, the Turians have filled the military and peacekeeping niche in Citadel space vacated by the Krogan. In recognition of their role during and after the rebellions, the Turians were inducted into the Citadel Council as the third race with full membership.
Expansion, conflict, and humanity. The next 1,000 years were relatively peaceful ones for the Council, interrupted only by some minor galactic incidents and the Geth War of 1895 Common Era. In that conflict, the Quarians were driven from their worlds by the Geth, the machine race created to serve the Quarians that had achieved artificial intelligence and rebelled. With invasion by the Geth an imminent threat, the Council refused the Quarians' pleas for help and revoked their Citadel embassy, and also implemented restrictive laws on AI research and development.
During this time, the Council continued to explore the galaxy, encountering new races with varied success. One diplomatic failure occurred with the Yarg, a pre-space flight race discovered by Council surveyors in 2125 CE. The Council delegation was dispatched to the Yarg homeworld, Parnak, expecting to quickly establish diplomatic relations. Unfortunately, the predatory Yarg misinterpreted the delegation's non-subservient behaviors as an attitude of contempt and promptly slaughtered the delegates. The Council responded by cutting off contact with the Yarg and declaring Parnak off-limits to Citadel races. The Council asserted that the extremely aggressive Yarg were poorly suited to integrate with the galactic community.
In 2157 Common Era, the Council intervened in the Relay 314 incident, a brief conflict instigated by the Turians against the newly encountered humans for what the Turians viewed as a breach of galactic law. The First Contact War, as humans referred to it, was brought to an end when both sides prepared to escalate their involvement. The Council revealed itself and the existence of the galactic community to humanity and brokered a peace agreement which forced the Turians to pay significant reparations. Humanity quickly rose to prominence as was granted an embassy on the Citadel in 2165 Common Era.
Okay, so let's move into the book that came out just before the start of the first Mass Effect game, which is called Revelation. So after their top Spectre agent, Saren, reported the Alliance's illegal AI research on Sidon, the Council holographically confronted the first human ambassador, Anita Goyle, and announced they would impose heavy sanctions on the Alliance with regular reports from personal overseers. Goyle predicted their ulterior motives, intending to curb humanity's rapid growth and expansion, and managed to negotiate a better deal with a passionate speech about humanity's growth as a species.
Goyle later asked for an audience with the Council, diplomatically offering Alliance participation in taking down the rogue AI researcher, Dr. Shu Qian, on Kamala. She offered the services of one of the Alliance's most decorated officers, Lieutenant David Anderson, and had him paired up with Saren to assess his Spectre candidacy. As Goyle left, she realized that the Council had anticipated all her requests, agreed measured in advance, and subtly let her know that she had a lot to learn about galactic politics.
Unfortunately, Saren secretly sabotaged the mission and falsified his report to make Anderson look responsible for the destruction of a refinery that killed hundreds of innocent people. It was enough for the Council to bar Anderson from the Spectres. After Saren stole Dr. Qian's research, the Council had no other evidence of the supposed artifact that Dr. Qian had discovered, and refused to investigate without further proof.
So now we're on to the events of Mass Effect 1. Commander Shepard's induction into the Spectres is seen as the first step toward humanity gaining a seat on the Citadel Council, but this is a thorny issue as humans are still newcomers. Initially, the Council is reluctant to bow to the pressure from Ambassador Udina, but proof of Saren Arterius' treachery and Saren's vendetta against humans force their hand.
However, the Council doesn't want to send their fleet into the Attican Traverse, as this could trigger a war with the Terminus systems. They task Shepard instead with tracking Saren down and giving the Commander authority to use any means necessary to either apprehend or eliminate Saren. At the end of each mission, Shepard has the opportunity to report back to the Council from the Normandy's comm room and discuss matters with them.
Despite this, many humans still see the Citadel Council as anti-human and excessively cautious, which is not entirely unjustified. Much to Shepard's annoyance, throughout the post-mission briefings, the Council refuses to see the Reapers as anything more than a story that Saren was using to control the Geth, and dismisses the Commander's vision as a simple dream. They justify the dismissal by saying that their own intelligence sources did not uncover anything Reaper-related. The Solarian Councillor explains their position. The Council's decisions affect trillions of lives across the galaxy, and they cannot act on the say-so of a single person, even a Spectre, without evidence.
After Shepard discovers that the conduit is on Ilos, he finds the coordinate, or she finds the coordinates for the Mu relay to reach the planet, and discovers that Saren and Sovereign are planning to attack the Citadel itself. The The Council sends word that they are putting together a massive joint species fleet to handle Saren and the Geth. But when Shepard returns, the commander realizes the Council was only prepared to put up a blockade to stop Saren reaching the Citadel itself, and they had no intention of going to Ilos. The move relay's position meant the presence of a Council fleet there could start a war with the Terminus systems. The Council remains convinced that the Reapers are not real, and only seeing Saren as a master manipulator who plotted to attack the Citadel and would not reveal his true motives. Shepard's protests only result in the Normandy being grounded by Udina, while the Council quietly closed diplomatic channels.
Shepard manages to escape the Citadel, but the Council had no time to retaliate, as they are soon faced with a massive Geth armada led by Sovereign himself. When the Citadel fails to respond, the Council is evacuated to the Destiny Ascension, which then comes under heavy fire. Shepard, returning to the Citadel via the conduit, has a choice of how to deploy the Alliance Navy ships as reinforcements, ultimately deciding the fate of the Council and the future politics of all Citadel space.
Focusing on Sovereign and abandoning the Council causes the destruction of the Destiny Ascension and the deaths of the Council, resulting in a new Council being formed with Captain Anderson or Ambassador Udina as chairman. Depending on Shepard's morality, Ambassador Udina either states the necessity for the new Council to be assembled of only one species, the humans, or merely calls for a human chairman in a multi-species council.
Alternatively, the Alliance fleet can save the Ascension and the Council, albeit at the cost of many human lives. In this event, the Council accepts that the Reapers are real and that humans are now invited to join the Council, with either Captain Anderson or Ambassador Udina as the representative. Either way, the galaxy would look to humanity and the Council for guidance against the Reaper threat in the coming years.
Spoiler alert, it has to, the canon is Udina.
Yeah, because even if you instate Captain Anderson, eventually Udina will still take the place. It's pretty annoying, actually, but there you go.
Yeah. So the next quick events come in Mass Effect Galaxy, I believe is a comic. The Council was contacted by the Batarian ambassador Jatham 1 with the intention of bringing about a reconciliation between the Batarians and the Citadel races. Meanwhile, Jacob Taylor, a former Marine of the Systems Alliance, is investigating Batarian activity with the help of informant Miranda Lawson. During their investigations, they discover that the true purpose of the peace talks is to facilitate an assassination attempt on the Council by means of a deadly bioweapon. After confronting Jatham 1 with the evidence of his treachery during the Council meeting, the Batarian releases the weapon and infects the Council. Jacob repels the Batarian insurgents and brings Jatham 1 to justice. With the help of an antidote manufactured by the Asari scientist Bathar, the Councillors are cured of their infection before any major harm could befall them.
So into the events of Mass Effect 2. If the Council is saved, then humanity gains their full trust. Either Anderson or Udina is appointed, but as we said, pretty much just Udina, is appointed as the human counselor, with the other becoming their assistant. Nonetheless, there is not enough evidence to prove to the Council that the Reapers exist, even from what few fragments of Sovereign were recovered. From this, they convinced themselves and the galaxy at large that Sovereign was simply a Geth construct, painting Saren as the mastermind behind the battle instead.
When Commander Shepard returned from the dead, thanks to Cerberus, the Council was skeptical of their former Spectres' claims about the Collectors abducting human colonies. They were even more wary that Shepard was working with Cerberus, an acknowledged terrorist organisation. Though the Council cannot take any official action, they offer to restore full Spectre privileges to Shepard on the condition that the Commander restricts operations to the Terminus systems. Shepard can either accept or refuse this offer.
If the original Council died, the new Council will refuse to meet with Shepard. If Anderson is Councillor, the Commander can still be granted Spectre status, but this is played down as being a mostly symbolic gesture. If Udina is Councillor, Shepard will not be granted Spectre status.
Okay, so in the other book, Mass Effect Inquisition, supposedly in 2186 CE, Councillor Udina informs Captain Bailey that CSEC has been compromised and is working to undermine the Council. Bailey's investigation results in the death of Executor Palin and Bailey's promotion to Commander, despite Bailey's reservations about Palin's guilt. Udina does not elaborate on the nature of CSEC or Palin's activities.
So now into the events of Mass Effect 3. By 2186 Common Era, the Council is forced to acknowledge the existence of the Reapers when the race of machines launches their full-scale assault against the galaxy. Donald Udina serves as humanity's representative to the Council regardless of previous circumstances, as we said, Anderson having resigned and resumed alliance duties if he was originally given that post. So yeah, like we said, he will always end up stepping down, and Udina will always be the Councillor at this point. Though Shepard and Councillor Udina attempt to petition the Council for aid in retaking Earth, the Council races are more concerned with protecting their own borders. Thus, the Commander is forced to help the Council deal with their own problems in order to finally gain their support.
The Turian Council offers aid, suggesting that Shepard extract Primarch for Dorian for a war summit. The Asari Councillor declines to participate in the summit, believing that the disputes between the Krogan Turians and Solarians were too contentious to overcome, and any summit would not succeed.
After Shepard secures a Krogan-Turian alliance by dealing with the Genophage, the Solarian Councillor requests via Vidcom that the Commander come to the Citadel. The Councillor reveals that Udina had been using his authority to move vast sums of money for unspecified purposes and wants to investigate these illicit activities. But just when Shepard returns to the Citadel, the Council suffers a betrayal from within. In desperation, Udina reached out to the Cerberus and assisted them in launching a coup. Dealing with Cerberus forces along the way, Shepard meets with the Solarian Councillor, who had separated from the others. The Councillor warns the Commander of Udina's treachery, having learned of it beforehand, and that Udina was leading the rest of the Council into a trap laid by Cerberus assassins. Meanwhile, one of Cerberus's top agents, Kai Ling, decloaks and attempts to assassinate the Councillor while the opportunity presents itself. Depending on Shepard's past deeds, the Solarian Councillor lives due to the sacrifice of one of Shepard's acquaintances, or dies due to the lack of them.
In due course, Shepard is then able to find the other councillors and reveals Udina's treachery, though Udina tries to paint the Commander as a Cerberus agent. If Shepard saved the old council, they recall the last time they didn't trust Shepard. However, and if not, the new councillors reserve a bit more judgment on Shepard's claims. Whichever the case, Udina tries to escape and draws a gun on the Asari councillor, forcing Shepard or either Caden or Ashley to shoot and kill him. The councillors will express gratitude to Shepard for saving them and offer their assistance in construction of the Crucible.
The Asari Councillor later contacts Shepard after the Quarian-Geth conflict's resolution. Meeting in Udina's office, this councillor reveals that there is an artifact on Thessia that could reveal the nature of the final piece of the Crucible, the Catalyst. The artifact is later revealed to be a Prothean beacon, only known to the highest levels of the Asari government, due to the Council laws forbidding the withholding of Prothean technology. Shepard fails to obtain the information within, causing the Asari Councillor to break contact during the post-mission report, claiming to make contingencies for the continuity of civilization.
Alright, so if we talk about the military and their sort of intelligence, we start with the Citadel fleet. Their most important peacekeeping force is their fleet, which polices Citadel space and guards the Citadel itself. Mostly composed of Turian vessels, the fleet is large enough to station patrols at a vast number of mass relays and still keep a garrison at the Citadel. The flagship of the fleet is the Asari dreadnought Destiny Ascension. The Council was evacuated to the Ascension in the event of an emergency.
The Council Demilitarization Enforcement Mission, so the CDEM, was created in accordance with the armistice that ended the Krogan rebellions. Based at Piltia Station, CDEM's patrols oversee the entire Krogan demilitarized zone. CDEM logs all ships passing through the DMZ and has the right to board and search them at any time for any reason. Under the armistice, CDEM is responsible for ensuring that the Krogan do not obtain Starship-mounted weapons. The penalty for smuggling these weapons is punishable by death by spacing.
CDEM operates battle stations in orbit above Tuchanka and manages the planetary shroud, which prevents Tuchanka's surface from heating to inhospitable levels. CDEM also enforces a quarantine around the debris field of Rothla and maintains a small garrison at Ruam's Helium-3 mining stations to prevent the sale of fuel to criminal elements.
So their special task group. The Solarians often handle intelligence gathering operations as part of their council duties. Using the Special Task Group, or STG, the STG is composed of small units of Solarian operatives who monitor developing situations or undertake covert missions.
The Spectres, the Council's elite, invested with the Council's authority. Spectres are vital to keeping the peace across Citadel space. They are individuals who act either on the Council's orders or on their own initiative, to preserve galactic stability. Sometimes, in situations where the Council cannot be seen to act officially, they will send a Spectre instead. Spectres have absolute freedom under the law and answer only to the Council. All details of them are classified.
So we have a bit of a list here of some stuff that we can sort of skip over and just move on to some of their other information. So I guess we'll just go to their Galactic Standard Time stuff if you want.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, like with any sort of government, they have all these different committees that do different stuff, like finance and disease and all that kind of stuff. And something that's used in Mass Effect a lot is GST, or Galactic Standard Time in this case. And so they utilize a kind of a standardized time system. Obviously, if you live on all different planets, all different ships and stations, like, you know, you're going to have different hours of light and all the rest of it compared to just on Earth. So Galactic Standard Time is standardized throughout, and it's different from the Terran Coordinated Universal Time, which was relied on humans, but basically that says that Galactic Standard Day comprises of 20 hours only, but each hour comprises 100 minutes, and each minute comprises 100 seconds. Each second is about half as long as a human second, which basically means that a 20-hour Galactic Standard Day is 15.7% longer than a standard 24-hour Terran Coordinated Universal Day, which is like a real day. So which means it lasts 27 hours, 46 minutes, and 40 seconds based on Earth time.
Galactic Standard Year is described as being an average of Asari, Solarian, and Turian years, and is only 1.09 times longer than an Earth year. This means that a Galactic Standard Year consists of 398.114 Earth days, or 343.97 Galactic Standard days.
Yeah, we'll quickly run them through. There's a couple of like the actual counselors themselves. So the Asari counselor in the beginning is somebody called Tivos. Obviously remains a counselor throughout unless the Destiny Ascension is destroyed in Mass Effect 1. And if that's the case, then she will be replaced by Irisa. She's a lot colder, for example, than Tevos. She's more likely to squeeze if her hand is on an enemy's throat. The Solarian counselor called Valern in the first one, again, can be still the counselor, even just, you know, depending on whether the Destiny Ascension is saved or not. And if not, then it's replaced by Ishiel, who is a Dalatras that subscribes to very Machiavellian ethics and is quick to rationalize issues which would be detrimental to Solarian interests if there's a very compelling reason to do so.
Finally, we're onto the Turian counselors here, before we get onto the human ones, which are a bit more fleshed out and would need full videos sort of for their own characters. So the first Turian counselor is Sparatus, which is during the start of the story in 2183, and he remains counselor all the way through to 2186 unless, as we said, Destiny Ascension is destroyed, in which case he will be replaced by Quentius, who is essentially a little bit less antagonistic towards Commander Shepard and openly espouses the idea that races should work together against the Reapers. So in this case, the Turian Counselor is sort of replaced by a slightly nicer one rather than a colder one in the case of the other two.
Yeah, and obviously we mentioned the dynamic between the human Counselor Anderson and Adina, depending on how things go. So a bit of trivia then. So Sparatus is voiced by Alistair Duncan, who also voices Nihilus in the first game. So obviously, if you're thinking about the two of the first Turians that you come across in the whole series sound the same, that's because they basically do.
Yeah, Tevos is voiced by Jan Alexandra Smith, who also provides the voice for Dr. Chloe Michelle in Mass Effect, as well as Aishi the Mournful Blade and Forest Shadow in BioWare's Jade Empire. And Delilah Howe, Nita, and Lady Lisa Pacton in Dragon Age Origins Awakening.
And Valern is voiced by Armin Shimmerman, who also voices Fidan. So they like to reuse voice actors for different roles.
I think that's a fairly common practice, although way better hidden in Mass Effect than it is in, say, Skyrim, where every second NPC has the same voice.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but it's interesting, you know, when you hear like Commander Shepard, the male Shepard's voice also being like a vulture, or whatever during some of the games. That was always interesting. But it's done well. In terms of the council, I mean, we obviously know what this is generally an amalgam for. Like, we know it sort of suits ancient Greek and sort of ancient Roman when Rome turned away from being a like a monarchy. It sort of does that, doesn't it? Where each nation, each species still effectively has its own governance, but it also has this sort of wider sort of unwritten government, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's sort of like for anything that's sort of in your own galaxy or in your own solar system or on your own planet, you can sort of look to your own governments for that. But when it comes to sort of wider galactic issues, that's where the council sort of steps in and applies some pressure regarding certain laws. I think some of their more important ones are sort of outlawing AI research and stuff like that. That's sort of the big one that I think the council has an impact on, that maybe wouldn't really come into the games that much if it wasn't just completely outlawed by the council after the Quarians and the Geth incident.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. I mean, it's pretty cool. Some of the stuff like being a Spectre. I mean, we'll do another video on Spectre. I mean, what the Spectres are and everything and all of that. But it's quite interesting, and obviously you're introduced to them quite nice and early in the first game, and it sort of builds the mystique and builds this concept of the galaxy. And yeah, anyway, so that's the council. What do you guys think? Do you think that the council are generally good? Do you think that they're a net positive? Do you think they're trying to actually improve the galaxy, or do you think that they are just trying to maintain power like a lot of other governments do?
Yeah, let us know in the comments down below, and yeah, for now, we'll see you next time.
Oh, looks like we lost the signal, Joker.
Understood, Commander.